And I've heard you say this term over the years, and I love this. I know both of us love this term, this idea of, hey, let's co-create greatness together.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit more concretely, maybe even getting into kind of the blocking and tackling, if you want to call it that, of how you did that? And when you say co-create greatness, how do you think that works between a leader and a team member? What's it look like?
Yeah, well, I think, I don't think it's that hard to do. I think most people, I think it's just asking, like you sitting down or you whiteboarding with a group of people. You can use Mural if you're doing it virtually. It's a great little way to do it. But just sitting down and asking, like, what do you think great looks like in your role? If we had to write down, and I did this with my teams. We spent almost a half a day just like, when I'm working with you or when you're in front of a customer, what does good look like to you? Let's talk about those things and write them down. I want to know everything that you think what good looks like, and then what does that look like when it's happening? And we actually whiteboarded those things and wrote them down. I said, so this is our blueprint. So when I ride with you and we're working together, we're going to hold each other accountable. If I'm not coaching you or preparing you or leading you in this way, right? Then you have the ability to call me out. This is how teams work, right? And so that was the fun part about it, is co-creating what we believe good look like and then holding each other accountable. Too many times people don't know what you're holding them accountable for.
Right.
They don't know what the goal, they don't know what good looks like. And I do think it's easier than people think it is. I think you just have to ask the question. Because most people understand what good looks like. There are going to be some people who are quiet, right? There are going to be some people who might not lean in as much. But the rest of the team's the majority of your team's gonna come up with a pretty good blueprint. I've not seen a group of people who come up with a pretty bad blueprint. They all they all know what good looks like. They just want to know that you know what good looks like, and then we work together to make that happen, and we hold each other accountable for that. And then that's what good looks like now, but that doesn't mean that's good looks like forever. Let's continue to push each other to what's next.
Yeah, what I like about what you said in contrast to when you first started, and how many leaders are, like, I know what's best for you. This is what I think good looks like.
Right.
Like, versus when you give them at least the perception of they're buying in, they're creating it, then they give you permission to coach them.
Right.
They give you permission to lead them, and then we're in this together. And I like coaches, we love to hold other people accountable. But what I hear you said is you give them permission to hold you accountable.
Absolutely. Right, no doubt.
Yeah, and we're committed to this process together.
Yeah, I'm far from perfect. I'm far from perfect, and I work with great people who make me better every day.
Yeah.
And
so as we're thinking about this, and you said it's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Right, hey, this isn't rocket science. Well, what makes it so difficult? What are the challenges that leaders face in kind of co-creating greatness together? What do you think are some of these challenges that are facing leaders today?
I don't think that it's not taught in MBA school. You're not taught those types of things, right? When you're rising the ranks, you're taught that performance from a scoreboard matters, from a metric side matters, from a compliance side matters, from a P&L side matters. You're right. You're not taught I don't believe it. I have not seen an MBA school. Maybe Rice does a really good job. I know they have a really good leadership program. There's a gentleman out there at Rice who does a great job building, I think, really good leaders. But I think most MBA programs don't focus on things of that. How do you co-create and build a culture that thrives? I mean, if we did, then Patrick Lencioni wouldn't be so popular as he is with the advantage and the 5 dysfunctions of the team and the things people are looking at from a leadership standpoint. I just think people are focused on the wrong things.
Yes.
They don't understand how powerful engagement is at driving performance. And if you and I both clearly know what good looks like and what our goals are, I don't think anybody's going to say, I can't reach that, or you're not being fair to me.
Yeah.
Right? And I think we're just taking the time to sit down. You're going to spend a lot less time on the back end if you do this on the front end.
Yeah. Okay, so we're thinking also, and I think that's a great question of like, what's not working in the space of how we're training our leaders. Talk a little bit about, because I know one thing you do a heck of a job of is your finger is on the pulse of leadership development training, where it's going, what we're seeing. What do you really see as what we're getting right now? Like when you look at the landscape of America and corporate America, what's being done well, and then with that, where do you see, where is this headed? Like what's coming next in the space of leadership development?
Yeah. Well, I think first the investment in it is great. I think. Is it always in the right areas? I don't know if it's always in the right areas. I think because at the end of the day, some of it's around, I think more has to be dealt, especially even before COVID. emotional intelligence, self-awareness, social awareness, psychological. So these
Yeah.
people, I hate the term soft skills because they're the hardest things
Yes.
for a leader to
it's such a
lead
misnomer.
with. Right? I think Blanchard calls them power skills, so I'm going to agree with Ken Blanchard on that one because I do believe they're power skills. That's where I think leaders of the future, because you think about COVID and all the things that were thrown at leaders during COVID and people in general, not just leaders, but how do you lead with so much ambiguity and so much uncertainty? How do you make sure people's families are okay, but at the same time, are they reaching out to their companies and customers, making sure they're okay? That takes a lot of self and social awareness, a lot of emotional intelligence and empathy. But at the same day, is how do you help them lean in, right, to make sure they're taking care of their role and their job and getting better as well? Because, when there's uncertainty, the one thing you can control that's certain is your skills, behavior, and your own mindset, and your own growth, right? And I think sometimes we don't help people balance those things. They get stuck in this very world of uncertainty when there's things that they can certainly grasp onto. So I think what we're getting right is investing. Where we need to go is more experiential learning, right? We do a lot of knowledge. We dump a lot of knowledge into leaders, and I think we've talked about this as a group, is how do we make this more of experience? Because knowledge without application isn't where
becomes noise.
Right, it just becomes noise. And
Leaves you worse off than you were before.
yeah, absolutely. And so how do we develop experiences where leaders actually are learning, but then applying it, and then finding out where their gaps are, right? I love the book Primal Leadership. It talks about, you can have the right EQ if you have somebody standing behind you, reminding you what you need to be doing. But when you're in an experience, your primal leadership skills, your primal natural skills, EQ skills are going to come out. And that's where I think things like VR, augmented reality, are the wave of the future from a training and development standpoint, but from a leadership development standpoint, because you can put people in a ton of different scenarios after you throw the knowledge at them to see if they can apply it. And if they can't, that's okay. They're doing it in a VR scenario. It's a safe place to make a mistake, and we're all going to fail. Right. But how do we fail in a very immersive learning experience, and then help them learn from that and continue to pose these different scenarios at them that are very real life, very realistic, very experiential, where they're going to learn consistently. The beautiful thing about VR, AR is you get the data back pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So it's a measurement tool as well, and a gaps analysis tool pretty well in terms of skills and behaviors. So I can take that information and I can work with my team to start to think about what's the next scenario, but how do we cover this gap? And I really think in the future I think about psychometric tests, because we use Hogan Hypo, Hogan High Potential, right? We use EQ tests. I think eventually those things will probably put into a VR format. What better than way to test somebody's true
to measure them right there.
Psychometric ability than with VR experiential type things?
Yeah.
So variable practice, part of what
exactly. That's all.
We got to create variable practice opportunities.
We got a lot of block going on.
Yeah.
We need variable.
No doubt.
Right?
And I think it's also changing the mindset of we got an opportunity every day to get better.
Absolutely.
Right. And I love this idea of creating a safe place. So in the absence of VR, how as a leader do I create a safe environment where it's okay to take risks, where it's okay to make mistakes, that we're just trying to get better?
Yeah. Yeah, I think those are, I think there's tons of opportunities for people to learn from their people. I mean, whiteboarding, just asking those questions, having one-on-ones with their team. But I think if you want to kind of build a team that's psychological safe, I think there's a lot of great things on Zoom, Microsoft Teams. Mural is an app that we use quite a bit from a brainstorming and collaboration standpoint, where you can ask your team and pose them questions, and then they just start iterating on it. And then you just watch them go.
Right.
And pretty soon they're building a blueprint to something that you might have had a good idea about, but they have a much better idea about, because now you got 10 people looking at one problem. And that's always better than just me looking at that.
No doubt.
That.
So as we're thinking about that's corporate America, this vision to create the best coaches, the best leaders in BI. What have you noticed in this process?
Yeah.
What have you learned along the way the last 4 or 5 years that you've been in this role?
We got a lot of good people in leadership. I think we got a lot of people who want to learn and get better, and I think they had a lot coming at them. I mean, COVID, even before COVID, but during COVID, I think they, like we all did, we struggled to find footing, right, and find our place, but I think they're coming out of that, and now we just have to help them and give them the opportunity to grow as coaches, to understand that activity is one part of it, right? But coaching's not a noun; it's a
Yeah.
verb, right? And then what's the act? What do I want that's for my people, and how do I get them where they want to go? And how do I make that simple? How do I make simple goals,
Yeah.
right? And how do I make specific goals where when they see them, we both know what good looks like, and we're both working towards that goal and holding each other accountable. I think there's so much coming at these leaders from the changes that are taking place from a work environment standpoint, from a business environment standpoint, from a customer standpoint. There's been so much happening from a medical community standpoint, and the changes that they've been forced to make, that I think our leaders have taken it all in. And sometimes, like you said, who's coaching the coach?
Yeah.
Right. So our directors, listening to their coaches and helping them find common ground, but just simplifying what coaching is. And when they get in that car with somebody, or when they're on that virtual call with somebody, that it's about them.
Yep.
It's not about you, it's about them.
Yep.
And I think that's where, you guys have really helped, is at the end of the day, it is more about the person who's sitting next to them and how do I help make them better. But then I think equally as important, who's coaching the coach?
Yes.
Who's making that environment for them? And I think that's the other thing that you guys have brought to the table for us is, the directors, as directors, they have an equal responsibility to help their coaches feel safe, like they're in a good place, like they have a culture where they're thriving together and where they're hopefully simplifying the things that they believe are important, to win consistently.
Yeah.